contest master, fellow guests, and Toastmasters. I am a sucker for adventure. I went to Washington, D.C. a couple years ago, and of course, recently had seen National Treasure. So I just assumed that when I showed up there, something secret and magical was going to happen to me. So it was not by accident that at 2 a.m. I was tapping around the Lincoln Memorial in search of a secret compartment. Well, I didn't find one right away, but on my way out, I saw in the corner a very small blue light. I headed towards it, and there on the side of the retaining wall was a small blue globe. Well, I pressed that globe, and a door opened, and I headed into this room. Now, this room was packed with about 35 people, and I'm greeted at the door by this very familiar old gentleman. He says to me, "Is this your first time?" I said, "Yeah. Here's an agenda, and I want you to be the quote master for this evening. Please take notes on those memorable quotes that you hear." All right, so I sit down and the meeting begins. Now, the presider is this enormous man, and he welcomes up the first speaker. He says, "Our first speaker tonight is young Johnny. Come welcome him." So we clap for young Johnny. He comes up, he gives a fantastic speech, and he closes it out with this memorable quote that I wrote down. "Ask not what Toastmasters can do for you. Ask what you can do for Toastmasters." The second speaker was also extremely familiar, recently from his likeness on the big screen, and from the penny that was in my pocket. Abe got up to give his speech. The closing remark at the end of his speech was so powerful I was moved to write it down as well. "As a Toastmaster club, of the people, by the people, for the people, you shall not perish from the earth." Next, it was time for evaluations, and so first up on the event, this meeting was seeming very familiar to me. The next up at the lectern was Ronald to give the evaluation of young Johnny. He closed out his statement with, "I hope that John's wisdom trickles down to you all." To evaluate Abe came Teddy with his huge mustache and boisterous personality. He opened his evaluation with, "Abe speaks softly, but he carries a big message." The evaluation's over. Howie calls for the ah counter report. Well, Harry was the ah counter. He stands up, says there were 3 ahs. Unbelievable. There was an absolute pandemonium. There was no ahs. Nobody heard any ahs. Apparently the bell, which is usually rung to denote an ah, was recently cracked, and so could not be used for the ah counter. So to stop the pandemonium, Harry had to get up and shout, "I didn't give you hell with those ahs. I just told you the truth and you thought it was hell." Last was time for table topics, my favorite. The table topics master was Ulysses, and himself was on the $50 bill, so he proposed this question. Get up and make your argument for why you should be printed on the new $4 bill. First up was Jimmy Madison. He summed himself up simply with, "Hello, I was the 4th president." But the winner was Franklin R. "I was elected to office 4 times, unlike all you 2-timers." So the meeting was wrapped up and I headed for the door. I was stopped there by the same elderly gentleman. He said, "Son, you did such a great job as quote master, and I am not lying." "Thanks, George. I appreciate that." "But I have this question. Why are you all here?" He thought about that for a minute and was puzzled, but he said, "Everyone needs a little polish on their public speaking, even past presidents."